This video is sponsored by Best Buy. Do you ever watch some of the things that these pros and high-level players do in Apex Legends and think, I will never do that? Well, you're right. Only because you don't have the information that they have. In fact, it's super difficult to understand what these pros go through to become top-tier players in one of the most competitive Battle Royale games in the world, which is why, coming back from the $2 million championships, being a caster and an analyst and a YouTube content creator for how to be a better Apex Legends player, I decided to focus on 5 of the biggest tips that top-tier players in the esport do to become a better Apex player that will help you and anyone watching improve. So we're about to get into how you can improve your game in Apex Legends significantly, but if you want to improve your setup and your gaming gear significantly, look no further than Best Buy. Best Buy was gracious enough to send me an Xbox Series S that delivers next-gen performance along with the same great audio as the Series X, with both spatial sound and support for Dolby Atmos. You'll get load time improvements, games that run smoother, and the promise of up to 1440p games with 120 FPS on many titles, which is a massive upgrade over its predecessors. Even without a premium price tag, it's very much powerful enough to become your main console, and I have had the pleasure of playing Apex on this and many other games thanks to Game Pass Ultimate, which allows me to get the best games available all with one simple price every single month. It is the best deal in gaming, and if you don't take advantage of it, well, then you're missing out. Discover your next favorite game with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and get access to over 100 high-quality games on console, PC, and mobile. So whether it's getting better at multiplayer games or just upgrading your setup so you've got the best one out there, Best Buy has all of your needs. Make sure to grab the Xbox Series S and sign up for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate today. What are you waiting for? Without further ado, let's kick into the number one. The first way you can become a top-tier player in Apex Legends, just like the pros, is to understand how circles move and where you're dropping in any map of Apex Legends. Wait a second. Isn't that the beginning of the game? Why are we not talking about how I win this thing? Very fair question. I understand it's a little bit confusing, and this is why I think pros take advantage of their ability to understand how important it is to know where you're dropping each and every moment you step into Apex Legends. One thing I think no one knows really unless you watch competitive Apex Legends is that before the game even starts, these teams have already talked offline and decided where each one of them is going to be dropping to start every game of their tournament. Now, why is that? The first reason is it minimizes RNG. When you have a game like a Battle Royale, you never know who you're going to run into, where the circle is going to pull, and especially what type of loot you're going to get, or if you'll get lucky with that late game care package that brings you a Kraber that seals the deal for the win. But one thing you can do if you drop in the same spot every single time is minimize some of the randomness by having the same exact location that you can become comfortable with, understand the layout in, and understand where the loot is. In high-level play, pros decide that it's a better trade to know that we're dropping here by ourselves, even if we're not dropping in our favorite spot because another team is there, than to randomly decide whether they're going to get dropped on by another team or they're going to drop on another team and fight in a foreign area or get taken out at the beginning of the game without a chance to win, ruining their hopes at a big prize pool. The second thing that's more important to you is it allows you to understand how to rotate to every circle based on starting in the same location. Imagine if I took you out into a foreign city and I dropped you somewhere and said, find me the nearest gas station or find me a great slice of pizza. You would have a hard time doing it because you wouldn't know where you are and you'd have to spend time Googling it or searching for it, trying to figure out where to go. If I visited you in your hometown and said, where's the next gas station, you probably could take me there with your eyes closed. And that's the difference between understanding a landing point, whether it's in World's Edge, Kings Canyon, or Olympus, better than other places that you might be dropping randomly. The biggest mistake I see people do is they continue to drop here and there and here. And when I wanted to improve at Apex earlier on, I chose one place to land and I landed there 8 hours a day for 5 days in a row. And I knew every nook and cranny where every piece of loot was. And when someone landed on me or I had players run into that area, I had the advantage because I knew the layout, I knew where the weapons were, and I knew how to fight it better than someone who was just for the first time in their games showing up to that area trying to take a random fight. So find a drop spot that you enjoy, stick to it, and keep landing there. It will minimize a lot of the problems you have early game, and we all know how frustrating it can be to go out early in Apex Legends. The number 2 way to be a top tier player in Apex Legends is to understand that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. When Aristotle said this, it made a dent in history and is still said to this day because it represents something very true, not just in life, but in competitive gaming. If you take apart a watch and you lay the parts on the table, it's just a bunch of parts on a table, but when you put them together, you suddenly can tell time, something more important and greater than any of those individual parts could do by themselves. In Apex Legends, it's the exact same thing. Certain characters by themselves, when thought of individually, are powerful. Think of how fun Bangalore is with the double time passive, meaning you can move 30% faster when people are shooting at you, or the fact that she can use her Bangalore smokes to displace other enemies away from the zone or to even provide cover for her own team. But when Bangalore is included in a squad that allows that Bangalore smoke to do even more than it naturally does, something special happens. And that's where I think the big picture of improvement doesn't happen for a lot of our players. If you go into Apex Legends and just pick the character you want to play, you might be a great individual performer. But what about your composition as a whole? High-level pros have to think about not just what they feel comfortable with, but what compositions actually work best together to create something that wouldn't happen if they were all individually there. Here's some examples. Bangalore and Bloodhound. Bangalore with those smokes, allowing you to obviously play very defensive, but the second you include the character Bloodhound, you have the chance to get a free scan while other teams are still dealing with your smoke. You take something that's naturally offensive, which is powerful, but doesn't affect anyone defensively on the other side of the game, and now you can be defensive with Bangalore smoke, and not only is your scan effective, it's even better because they can't see at all, let alone you can see all of them. It becomes an elevated version of both elements of defense and offense, and when you find that type of cohesion, it's important to build compositions around that if you really want to take your game to the next level. Here are a few pairs of legends that are great examples of when used together become greater than they are individually. Caustic and Gibraltar, two defensive legends that when paired together become even more defensive, but push players beyond that barrier of willingness to push them in the late game. It means you have the setup to not only defend, but defend against if that defense gets broken, which usually creates too much of a hurdle for other teams to successfully push you and allows you to take some of the best spots in the late game and ultimately win. Bangalore with Seer or Bloodhound, giving you tons of defensiveness while adding the extra vision, allowing you and your team to be more aggressive to an enemy team who is now less capable of fighting than they were before, given that you have the information on where they are. Number 3, Newcastle and Watson, a defensive legend that doesn't quite have the best shielding possible. Now with the Watson generator, can defend against any of those ordinances that might otherwise have caused Newcastle's shield to be less effective than Gibraltar, making both the Watson generator more protected because of the shield and the shield more effective because the Watson generator covers some of the areas that it might be lacking when going up against Gibby. We saw 100 Thieves do this to perfection, and they almost won the biggest tournament of the year, playing this composition many people haven't considered to be so successful. It certainly is. And of course, Valkyrie and really anybody. Yeah, if she's that good, might need a nerf soon. So now you're prioritizing dropping in the same place. You're finding yourself having rhythm because you know the loot and you know the locations. You're then going on and picking team compositions that aren't just about you as an individual, but really trying to fit something that will elevate your squad and make each of those characters better because the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Now it's time for number 3, where you isolate what type of role you want to play in Apex Legends in order to become a better top-tier player. Roles in Apex Legends are difficult because they're not taught, they're learned, they're seen. They're sometimes just found out through osmosis of taking in the information of players around you, watching certain streams, or watching certain videos that give you a hint at what they're doing. But let's break down the 3 roles in Apex Legends and why it's important for you to have a role that you're practicing and improving. The 3 roles are Fragger, IGL, which stands for In-Game Leader, and Support. Loosely, these 3 things mean someone focused on getting damage and finishing off kills, someone focused on leading the team and getting damage as well, but playing whatever role is necessary to guide the team with communication, to success and ultimately winning the game. And 3, a character that is meant to be supporting the actions of the other players, providing defense, utility, or just clear communications or a second opinion in order to make sure that the team is running consistently and effectively in those late game circles. An example of an in-game leader is someone like TSM FTX Imperial Hal or NRG Sweet Dreams, 2 of the most famous players in Apex Legends. And the reason is they're the ones doing most of the talking for their teams. They come up with these plans, they isolate and make calls, they search and get involved in fights, and as an in-game leader, that's all your responsibility. This is where you kind of take the pressure. And if you want to be somebody who stands up, takes the pressure of playing and performing, and it being your call where you go in that final circle so that you either win or lose, this is a great role for you to practice. What it's going to take is you to turn that mic on within the game, talk to your teammates in ranked and in pub matches, and start making calls. We should go here. Let's loot here. Let's fight this team. Let's back off. And even if people don't listen to you, you're practicing the skill of what it's going to take to, at the highest level, start becoming a better IGL. But maybe you're more of a player who likes to sit back and just watch and also be there for their teammates. Maybe Gibraltar, Lifeline, could even be Caustic are the players and the characters that have always caught your attention in Apex Legends. Then maybe a support role is one for you. As an athlete myself, growing up and also playing Apex Legends often, I find that support roles are roles that do not get as much shine as the IGL, but are simply as important, period. You look at Reps and the quality of character and play that he puts together for TSM, and you can easily say and make an argument that he is one of, if not the best player on that team. The problem is most of the credit and most of the attention goes to Hal because he's doing a lot of the talking and the initial playmaking. And that is where it can be very difficult for some people to put aside their ego and take on this role. But if you decide to do so, you will always be appreciated by your teammates. You will always have a place to play in a squad that appreciates you. And you will definitely find that you can focus on some of those longer range weapons or shotguns if you do enjoy that style of play a little bit more versus being the first one into the fight at all times. Lastly, it's the fragger. This role is kind of a role that a lot of people want to play, I'm not gonna lie. It sounds fun to be the main damage dealer, the main kill leader, the person who is having the biggest stats at the end of the game. But most importantly, this character has a simple focus, which is to do damage and survive in a fight. As a fragger, you get in there, you get knocks, you do damage, and you make it easy for the rest of your team to clean up those kills. Ideally, if things start going bad, you get out of dodge as well, so that you could survive and allow yourself to have one last chance at maybe cleaning up or clutching up the play if a third party approaches you. And we all know that happens in Apex. If you find yourself naturally leaning towards being a very good aimer or having a lot of natural movement or skills, then this may be the role for you to show off exactly why you're so good, especially if thinking about what to do next or playing more of a slower utility role just doesn't feel like it's interesting to you or towards your natural skill set. Now, why did I say all that? Because a lot of people jump in as a Gibraltar main trying to in-game lead. And when you have to be the person who goes in for the fight, who scouts out information, having a Gibraltar is a bad idea. That's like getting on a racetrack and bringing a school bus. The school bus has a lot of utility. It's just not very useful when cars are going 200 miles an hour next to you. In fact, in TSM, this weekend, over the course of the biggest tournament in the world for Apex Legends, Verhulst, who is mainly the Valkyrie player, had to give that up to play Caustic. And Hal, who is mainly playing Caustic before this tournament, started to play Valkyrie. Why is this? Because Valkyrie as a legend allows him to in-game lead much better than the Caustic because she has so much mobility and allows Hal to scout out what the next step should be for TSM. Even though Evan Verhulst is a better Valkyrie player than Hal, and he'll even admit that, Hal needed this character to support his role of in-game leader, which should show you how important it is to understand your role because your legends do have to fit that role's purpose. When you find your role, commit to it and find a legend that allows you to do what you do best. Seers, Bloodhounds, Octanes, or maybe Gibraltars, Lobas, Cryptos, Watsons, Newcastles. These are different legends with different purposes. Find one that fits the role and what you want to provide for your team and practice that role with the legend that support it. You will become a top tier player in no time because this is something that a lot of players never ever think about. So we know where to drop. We got our team comps ready to go. We have synergy in our lineups, and we know our role. Whether we're fragging, IGLing, or supporting our squad, we are constantly improving and becoming better Apex Legends players. The number 4 way to improve and become a top-tier Apex Legends player is to watch yourself back. Yeah, no, not... don't try to look around and watch your back. Watch yourself back. Record your footage, whether it's streaming or on YouTube or simply with a program like OBS, Open Broadcaster software that is free to download. Just basically make sure you find a way to record your own gameplay. The reason this is so important is because a lot of the things that we associate with being a high-level gamer is things that we associate with being a high-level athlete. And coming from that background, I've been in environments where you play, you think something goes one way, and then you sit down with your team an hour or 2 hours later with the coach and you watch the tape back and your eyes go and your head goes because it wasn't as good as you thought. It's easy to be caught up in the moment and not exactly understand what you did or why you did it right or wrong for that matter. And the only way to improve is to understand what happened in the first place. That's why when you keep playing and go, I don't know what's up with me today, I don't know why, those are opportunities for you to improve that if you had just recorded your gameplay, you'd be able to spend some time improving specifically and getting better each and every moment that things didn't work out. You don't think this is that important? Well, I asked one of the biggest coaches in the game last week, what is the number 1 tip to improve as an Apex Legends player? And this was the exact thing that he said before. This is the number 1 tip. Watch yourself back so you can improve. If you do not believe this is important, that's probably because you haven't done it. So do it today. I'm telling you, it will make the difference. But I don't want to just leave you hanging. Here are a few things you can look for while you're watching your tape back to see as moments of improvement. How's your movement? Did you die because you didn't know how to move out of that situation, or was it all good? This is something that'll allow you to know if you should focus on moving and learning some movement techniques, which are very, very important. Rushing into fights. Did you rush into that fight and make it so that you were a little bit too aggressive? Should you have waited just a little bit longer and maybe that would have been the difference? Are you naturally too aggressive and ready to get things done without any patience in your gameplay? Or are you too passive? Was there an opportunity for you to actually have pushed a fight, but instead you stayed by the wayside, got caught by the zone pushing you in, and then had no chance once that team had recovered to go ahead and take them on? One very important but realistic thing to understand is, did you just miss your shots? Let's not blame ping. Let's not blame another person's legend. Let's not blame your health. Did you miss all of your shots? And if you had hit all of your shots, would you have won that trade? Think about it, because then sometimes that just means I've got to get back to the lab and I've got to start working on my aim again today. And that's the only change that I really need to make. It's not that serious. And another thing to look out for when this ever happens is, am I totally out of my depth? Did somebody just 360 no scope me, wall bounce, finish me with a 30-30 repeater, hit fire shot twice to the dome? If that was the case, maybe that player's a streamer. Maybe that player's just been playing a lot longer than you have. And maybe it's just a sign that there's always something to improve in life and, of course, in Apex Legends. So don't take it too personally and always be sure to recognize those moments where there really wasn't much you could have done there and you did your absolute best. If you learn how to watch yourself back, you will improve. This is what athletes do. This is what the best competitive gamers do. Start watching yourself back and recording your gameplay, and I guarantee you will be on your path to be a top-tier Apex Legends player in no time. The fifth and final thing for you guys to understand on how to put this all together to be a better Apex Legends player and a top-tier player, after spending all my time talking to casters, to pros, and to myself going through the rigors of learning this game from day one and teaching it to all of you for the last 3 years, I've seen nothing be more important than this final rule in gaming or in life, and that is to take accountability for everything that happens to you. Now, it's very easy to blame. In online video games, it's even easier. There's nobody on the other side of the screen except a character and a screen name, and that's why we deal with a lot of things like toxicity or players blaming others and creating a bad environment for you and other people around. And we all know we don't want that or support that here at Rain Day Gaming. One thing we do support is how to make you the best version of yourself. And if you do think about that, taking accountability for everything that happens to you is one of the best ways to do it, because it means that there's always a lesson. There's always a positive next step. There's always something to get better at, no matter whether you get downed off drop or you finish up in a 1v1 to clutch the game and it doesn't go your way. Those moments can be devastating and they can be hard to take, but if you just look at it as a stepping stone or a moment that's getting you across to the next moment where you will succeed, then it ain't so bad. It's not the end unless you make it. And that's the one thing that I want to encourage all of you. I've seen pros come in and out of this ecosystem. Some give up, some succeed and then give up. Some fail right away and keep on going. And some get to the top, get kicked off, and find their way to climb back. Those are the real champions. Those are the people who accept that they weren't where they wanted to be and sought an answer to find out how to get there. And if you embrace that with all of these specific tips on how to be a better Apex Legends player, then you will be a top tier player in no time. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Check out the Xbox Series S and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And thank you to Best Buy for sponsoring this video and always supporting the channel. If you want, you can check out and shop the links in my description below. And remember, Best Buy delivery is always fast and free. It's one of my favorite things about it. As always, never give up, never stop gaming, and I'll see you all next time.